the Tea Party movement and actions. As many of you have probably heard, this last week we released this report with the NAACP. My paper today explores some of the important aspects of the findings of this 94-page report, pictured there, and which you all can download freely at teapartynationalism.com. Particularly, we're going to focus today on the aspects of the findings in regards to the questions around race and nationalism. The study, in fact, is a snapshot in time. As Heraclitus once says, you can't step twice into the same stream. If we were to write this report a year from now, it would look differently than it would if we wrote it last year than doing it today. But it provides us at least an indicator of where we're at in terms of the Tea Party, in terms of their size, scope, and their origins. This exhaustive, data-driven study contravenes many of the Tea Party's self-invented myths, particularly the supposed sole concentration on budget deficits, taxes, and the power of the federal government. Instead, Tea Party ranks are increasingly permeated with concerns about race and national identity and other so-called culture war issues. In these ranks, the abiding obsession with Barack Obama's birth certificate is often a stand-in for the belief that the first black president of the United States is not a quote-unquote real American. Rather than strict adherence to the Constitution, many Tea Partiers are now challenging the provision for birthright citizenship found in the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The Tea Partiers have, in fact, torn down many of the walls of the issue silos that have separated the conservative movement for many decades. If you look at the driving policy issues for the majority of the Tea Party factions we cite in this report, after the failure to stop healthcare reform, you'll see an undeniable turn in the direction towards issues around race and national identity. Support for Arizona's controversial SB 1070, the so-called Papers, Please bill. Opposition to the Park 51 Islamic Center in Manhattan, the so-called Ground Zero Mosque. Opposition to the DREAM Act and many others, all of which fall well outside the parameters of the popularly constructed Tea Party mission statement. Moreover, the relationship between hardcore white nationalists and the Tea Party movement has become a two-way street. National Tea Party organizations have given platforms to anti-Semites and racists, and hardcore white nationalists have been attracted to these protests, looking for potential recruits, and hoping to push these white protesters, these overwhelmingly white protesters, as many of the folks before me today have indicated, towards a more self-conscious and ideological white supremacy. Interestingly, when we started looking at the data, one thing we found particularly interesting. We found that while Tea Partiers and their supporters are concerned about the economic recession that we're currently in, the data tells us that there is in fact no observable statistical link between Tea Party membership and unemployment levels. You'll note in the report a regression analysis to this question that examines these very same issues. And their storied opposition to political and social elites turns out to be predicated on an antagonism to federal assistance to those deemed the undeserving poor. The Tea Party movement has unleashed a still inchoate political movement by angry middle class and overwhelmingly white people who believe that this country, their nation, has been taken from them and they want it back. The Tea Party movement has used the oft-repeated phrase, take it back, take your country back. Now this in and of itself is an explicitly nationalist refrain. It's sometimes coupled with the assertion that there are quote-unquote real Americans, as opposed to others they believe are driving this country into some sort of socialist ditch. The data indicates that there is less populism here and more of a mixture of ultranationalism and or super patriotism. The Tea Party movement as a whole is a multi-million-dollar a year complex that includes for-profit corporations, non-profit, non-party organizations, and political action committees. The Tea Party phenomenon exists at about 3 different levels of agreement and commitment. As we've already heard today, several national opinion polls point to support for the Tea Parties running at approximately anywhere between 16 and 27% of the adult population, which would put the number of Tea Party sympathizers in the millions. That would be the outermost ring of support. At the next level is a large, less defined group of a couple million activists who go to meetings, buy the literature, listen to Glenn Beck, and attend the protests. At the core, we found, are more than 280,000 members in all 50 states who have signed up to the websites of the 6 different organizational networks that form the core of this movement. Our work focuses on that core. We map the location of the memberships of these factions, we look at the gender breakdown of these factions, and we explore the relationship between these different various factions. There are the 6 different national factions listed there. The 1776 Tea Party, also known as teaparty.org, Tea Party Nation, Freedom Works, the Tea Party Patriots, ResistNet, and the Tea Party Express. We've identified these 6 core national organizational networks, or factions. The leading figures in one national faction, the 1776 Tea Party, were imported directly from the anti-immigrant vigilante group known as the Minuteman Project. The Tea Party Nation has provided a gathering place for so-called birthers and has attracted Christian nationalists and nativists. The Tea Party Express so outraged the public with its racist pronouncements of its leader, Mark Williams, that other national factions have recently eschewed any ties to it. Both ResistNet and Tea Party Patriots, the 2 largest of these networks, in fact, harbor long-time anti-immigrant nativists and racists. And Tea Party Patriots has opened the door to those aiming to repeal the 17th Amendment and direct election of the United States Senators. These 6 national factions have membership